I'm Melissa Cote. The fastest way to achieve success is to find someone who's already done an amazing job at what you want to do, and then have them explain to you exactly what they did to get there. We all rise by lifting others.
Hi, I'm Nycki Carter, and we are the founders and owners of Insporise, a platform where we can connect wildly successful people with aspiring successful people. And over the next 30 minutes, you are going to hear from someone who is truly inspiring.
Hi everyone, this is Melissa Cote here. I am one of the co-founders of Insporise. I am also a web developer and a hypnotherapist. And we have an amazing guest here, Sara. But before we touch base with Sara, I'm going to introduce Nycki, the other co-founder. Nycki, take it away.
Hi, you guys. I'm super excited to be here. I feel like this episode is going to be jam-packed with all kinds of inspiration from like a boss mom, mindset, entrepreneur, hustle, grind, all the things that we want. And I have an amazing guest to touch base with this on. Her name is Sara. We actually did a podcast together a while ago, and it's crazy how parallel and similar our last podcast was, I think, to this topic that we're about to touch on. But I hope you guys are excited for all the things. Sara, tell us who you are, what you're into. I cannot wait for them to learn about your business and your WE conference and all of those types of things. So I will let you jump right into it, and then we'll get into questions.
Yes. Thank you, Nycki. Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited to be here. I love Insporise. I love the idea and the mission behind it. A little bit about me. I am the founder of WE, which is an inclusive personal development events company. And then I am a mental health creator, mindset, and launch coach for online entrepreneurs. So we're going to be talking about all the family things because I also have 4 little girls that are 8 and under. And real entrepreneurship, all the real stuff. So I'm excited.
Yeah, what it looks like, I think 4 under 8. I have 2 under 5, and I think that's a lot of work. So you got double on your plate over there, girl. That's crazy. Okay, so tell us about WE first, and then we'll go into like your backstory and how you got there.
Yeah, so WE is kind of like this big umbrella with multiple different events. We have our mission, which is to reach all the different corners of all the different people across the world and just being inclusive personal development. It started out as WE, which stood for Women's Empowerment. And it started out as a kind of co-founded small little women's empowerment event. And it has grown into this international, huge, inclusive conference, which is freaking insane. And like I said, it was co-founded. Now I'm the solo founder, and it's insane. WE conference is our main event, and it has grown from just a small couple of hour event to a multiple day event spanning over a couple of days, and started out in Kentucky. Now we're moving to different states like Florida now. So I am so excited about WE conference. It's my heart. It's my passion project, and I love having my hands in it. So
I love it. Okay, so let's back it up and talk about your beginning into entrepreneurship, like how it got started, where you started, and then let's see if we can meet back to see where and how we came to be from that.
Yeah, so in 2015, my husband lost his job. We lost our house, we lost our car, and we became homeless with our kiddos. And that is when I started entrepreneurship and my entrepreneurship journey. We were at the bottom. So basically I thought, why not start now? We're at rock bottom, so I can't fail. There's no fail room there. I'm already at the bottom, so why not? And I started something called Misfit Sara, and it was a brand all around like helping moms get fit with their kids in tow. And I started going to people's homes and doing in-home personal training, and ultimately had like my first client ever. And she signed like a 12 session agreement. So I made like almost $1,000 in one setting, and that was huge, as you can imagine. If you were homeless, we met at the library, and she like handed me her card information, and I was just like, "This is gonna." It was the turning point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're like, I'm hooked on it. I know it's
Yeah.
going to work. And then what? You continue to grow and move into.
Yeah, so I had, of course, multiple clients. I trained people, but I was really getting tired of the like having to meet people at the gym at 5 a.m. to do personal training sessions. And ultimately, what I was really doing by meeting these women where they are at is helping them change not just like their bodies, but their lives. Like I was seeing things shift in their lives. And when I went to college, I really wanted to be a psychologist, but I was like, oh, I'll take that shit home with me, and I don't really want to do that. So, psychologist meets transformation equals life coach. And I went into that and then got obsessed with, the logistics of running an online business. I started just studying what other people were doing in the online space with their ads, with their marketing. I fell in love with this meld of like marketing and mindset, and I truly believe that entrepreneurship is an inside out job. Like you have to be working on both or it's just not going to work. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I help people with mindset and I help people with their launches, so ultimately helping online entrepreneurs with their inside out job, which is running their business.
I love it. Yeah, you can only go in the grind and hustle entrepreneur lifestyle for so long before you're going to hit that wall of burnout. And if you are not taking care of yourself, self-care, mindset, doing all the things that it takes, you will absolutely see yourself go from this run to a walk real quick. It's just not sustainable to live in that kind of grind, especially if you get into like feminine energy. I just feel like our bodies are literally not made to be in that space.
Yes, and that's kind of what happened with me with this past year's conference, and was this just like mental health burnout. Like I couldn't do it anymore. Like I went through so much. There was so much trauma around the conference and things that went down. And ultimately I was like, I have to take a couple steps back before I'm able to make another leap forward. And I think that's so important that we use our intuition in our businesses and be like, okay, if this means I get to leap forward, I will make the sacrifice of taking a couple steps back, even though it's scary or uncomfortable.
Yeah. And do you feel like in that space of taking a step back, I think the number one thing I would think of would be like COVID and restrictions and travel and all the things that were going on around that, but then you needing to take a step personally as well on top of that? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so this past year for We Conference, we obviously had to reschedule because it was like in the heart of COVID. We had it scheduled for, what did we do? We had it scheduled for January and we had to push it back to May. And it was insane trying to like work with the venue, switch things around, like switching dates, having to tell an audience that possibly already bought their plane tickets or whatever, like, look, we had to do this. I had several people messaging me, like angry messages, like, I've already bought my plane ticket, I can't get a refund, and having to deal with that. But then also, like, you have all of your logistics, all of the small things that are tough trying to manage something that big. But then also, like, the behind the scenes stuff that people didn't see. So it started out, of course, as a co-founder venture. And then my co-founder ultimately dropped out on me, said, I can't do this anymore. I can't handle this responsibility. And, so she dropped out, and then I had like multiple speakers with the date change and then also announcing the change of like, look, we're moving from women's empowerment to we, which is inclusive to all people. I had multiple speakers like, I'm out, even keynotes, like, I'm out. I had multiple people like steal my ideas and like open up their own conference and like have it nearly exactly the same, which is always sucks and stings very badly when people copy you because you work so hard to have original ideas. So ultimately, like, we were able to have the conference. It was the best one yet. That happens every single year. It's always the best one yet. It was incredible. And then afterward, we dealt with even more problems. So our photographer, between our photographer, like, not having a copyright thing, and then we had issues with having a photo release, and people had issues with them not being able to use the photos and promote themselves because we own the photos, and all kinds of insane stuff. But like, honestly, I'm so glad it all happened now while we only had like 150 people versus having 1,000 people coming for my throat. You know what I mean? So I'm glad like I learned all of the stuff I needed to know before we got to that level, because that would have been an even bigger shit show, and I don't know if I could have handled it. So we started promoting the next conference, of course, at the event. And about a month into it, I hit a mental health wall. I mean, like, my depression got so bad, my anxiety was crippling. No medication or nothing. Like, nothing was working for me. And so I announced that I was taking a step back and canceling this next year's conference. And I grieved that decision for a while. And it took a lot of guts for me to take that step down, even though that's what I had to do to stay alive.
Yeah.
But it was still super hard making that decision. So
what's the update? Like, where are you at right now with the next conference?
So right now it's canceled. It was April 22nd to the 24th in West Palm Beach, Florida, 2022. And it's canceled. Like, we're not rescheduling for 2022. And we have been working behind the scenes of not only like me taking a step back from my mental health, but like preparing for an event that large is so much bigger than we thought it was going to be. So we had already hired event planners for this next event so they could kind of handle some of that, like, strategy stuff for that big of an event, and so many tasks that I was doing all by myself this past year that they could kind of take on. So right as of now, we're just like kind of hanging in limbo, taking a break, studying other events, and like just gathering more ideas. Like, we have so many ideas that are just going to blow it up for 2023. So
I love it.
When you say we, so I know obviously you said you had a co-founder originally and now it's just you. When you say we, have you hired or onboarded like a team that works with you? Not like the vendors or, you know, the photographers and the side people that you hire or whatnot, but like, do you have a team that works with you on a daily basis?
So I did. For 2021, I had my co-founder. It was me. We had a diversity and inclusion person. We had like multiple people that we would get on Zoom calls and do all the planning and preparing. And ultimately, I am the last woman standing of all of that. I do work closely with a couple of friends that I've kept involved in the conference in different roles. And then also my husband stepped up this past year and was at the conference. He was behind the scenes. He was building relationships with the audience and the speakers and helping me ground. Like, there was at one point this past year at the conference where like I was like a chicken with my head cut off, running around trying to like do everything. And he like pulled me to the side and was like, Sarah, like, you need to calm the F down. And I'm like, I've got to do all these things, just get out of my way, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you're about to go up on stage for your keynote. He was like, you need to get up there and be yourself, because that's why people are here in the first place. He's like, who gives a crap if you cry, if you break down, if you show your emotions? Like, that's who you are. You're emotional. So stop trying to buff and be some Tony Robbins or something. Like, just get up there and be yourself. So my husband has been like a huge role, and that's been a big change because at first he was very like on the sidelines, you know, like, that's your thing, not mine. Like, you're into all that, not me. So it's been a big change having him on board.
That's awesome. I feel like there's a lot to kind of unpack within that entire story. So, the very first thing that I thought of when you said 150 people is on social media. I think I have so many people that are obsessed with vanity followers. And if someone came to me and said, like, I only have 150 people on Instagram, they would be like, that's not enough people to do anything. But if you're in a room of 150 people, it feels so differently. And so I just wanted to like take the opportunity to bring that forward and just say, like, if you have 150 really strong, amazing people in a Facebook group, you are so much farther ahead than you think that you are, and that you should be nurturing every single one of those people and going into like super fans and those kinds of strategies for learning what they need and including as many people as you can and opening up those doors is absolutely not something to sleep on. And I'm so glad that you've said that, because I think people can think that conferences have to be 3,000 people. And while they absolutely can grow to be that size, it is so strong and amazing to be able to take, you know, what you learned from the first 10 people, because 10 people in a room, like if you think of mastermind style, can be way more impactful than people will realize. And then you take those 10 people and you take what you learned and you make it 35, and then you go from 35 to 75 and 75 to 150, and you just keep growing, which it sounds like that was kind of your guys' like original track, right? So now you're at 150 people, you're learning the difference between 150 and 1,000, and, you know, like continuing to grow and move through that, I think is one, amazing, because people are so into instant gratification. Like, if my first event isn't 3,000 people, I don't even want it. Well, what they don't know is to have a 3,000 person event, I mean, you're literally going to spend $200,000.
Yeah.
You know, like, people do not realize how much money it costs. Like, think about a wedding, right? If you're going to have 100 people at a wedding, you're spending $40,000. It is not any different than a conference, except all of those people are expecting you to entertain them the whole time. At a wedding, they're sitting there for you and they're like, oh, my food's cold, no big deal. When I pay, you know, $1,000, $800 or $500 or whatever.
For a ticket.
For a ticket, my food better be hot and I want to drink, and where's my coffee bar? And it's a very, very, very high intense environment that I do not think that people think that it would be, because you think conference and resort and luxury, that's great. But in order to put on an event for people to walk in and feel luxurious and relaxed, it takes a lot of insane kind of chaotic work up front to do that, which I've helped with a couple of events, and I definitely do not know that people know that until they're sitting in this space. So you're very
so glad you're talking about that. We were projected to spend about $150,000 on next year's conference, and that was for only 1,000 people. So, and that's not even including, like, we had like different speaker benefits. Like, we had like a yacht excursion planned in Miami and stuff like that. And that was like us just paying for that out of our pocket, like $8,000 for a yacht just out of our pocket. So I totally agree with you. And as far as the number goes, that was a big thing for me. We undercut our number this year. We didn't hit the number that I wanted to hit for this year's event. So that, I'm so glad you brought that up. It is so easy to get caught up in like, I want to be like, I want to have like this Pays to Be Brave Angie Lee event. I want to have this Tony Robbins event.
I want to fan of her. I was going to say, I bet you know who Angie Lee is. I know that you know who Angie Lee is. Oh, I love her. But yes.
So
she talks about it. She's like, I showed up on YouTube when I had 7 YouTube viewers, and I showed up when I had an event of 11 people, and then I sat in a classroom with 25 people, and now I host a 5,000 person. I actually don't know how much I don't know how big Pay to Be Brave is, but I mean, her events are amazing, and she talks about it. She shares her numbers. I think she spent $350,000 on her last event. And I don't think people realize, like, if you make a margin of $70,000, but you have to spend $350,000, people don't realize, like, wow, I know there's 5,000 people here, and we all paid $800. Yes, except your keynote speakers add up, and the vendor space adds up, and your $11 coffee in the resort adds up. Yes.
Yeah, and like, it's just insane, like, what you make versus what you spend. I don't think people realize, like, in the event space period, yes, like, there are so many opportunities to turn a profit. Like, you can sell from the stage, you can have a high ticket item, people are already there, and the energy, it's so much easier to convert people versus online marketing. Like, there are ways to turn a profit in other ways, but as far as your event goes, without, like, ticketing costs people to death, which you can't even do until you've had several events several years in a row and have this, like, credibility of people know what they're getting into. Like, you can't come out the gate, like, with one event and expect 1,000 people to be there and charge $1,000 a ticket. But yeah, the profit margin, you're spending so much more than you turn a profit. And this past year was the first year that I had a profit, and we had 2 conferences before this year.
Good job.
So yeah, and it was, very small, like only a couple $1,000s. So crazy.
And I think to go back to unpacking, like, the grind and hustle and, like, moving forward mentality, something that I've been really repeating to myself every day is that entrepreneurs don't get celebrated for their growth pains enough, right? So to say, like, on year 1, I had an event and I was negative, and you know what? I'm going to do it a second year, and maybe I'm going to learn more. And then the second year, I still didn't make a profit, but I'm going to do it a third year. Most people would absolutely not continue after the first time, not the second time, and definitely not a third time. So, like, just know to celebrate yourself in that space of, like, growing pains, and be like, you know what? It took me year 3 or year 4 to make the profit. So now you're just, like, maximize on that. So speaking of profit, you talked about selling on the stage. I know there's, like, vendor spots, like selling vendor tables. What else do you guys work on, or do you know is a way to make profit? If someone who was listening to this and said, let me learn from what I can maybe do, what are a couple of your tips that were the highest converting, so that I know to include those in my conference, so maybe I'm not quite a loss or something.
Yeah, so having vendors is a huge portion of running an event, and ultimately you should try to set it up to where your vendors get close to, or at least, like, half of your vendor cost, like your venue cost. So our vendor spaces this year paid for our venue. Now in West Palm Beach, where you're talking like $20,000 to $40,000 per day on a venue, our vendors were not going to cover our venue costs, but that's a way to turn a profit. Also, whoever, like, the host is, if you have a keynote, positioning it where, like, yours is the high ticket offer, like, everyone's invested, everyone wants to get to know you better, everyone already is looking at you. Also, another thing we did was we allowed our keynote speakers to sell from the stage. Our lower speakers, like our breakout sessions and stuff like that, we allowed them to have a freebie where they captured emails from the audience and stuff like that, and they could lead it into something paid. But our keynotes, we allowed to sell from the stage for just a couple of minutes. We brought something up on the screen, and we had, like, in our contract agreement, like, if it goes over X amount of dollars, We Conference is an affiliate, and we get a percentage of commission of each of your sales. So that was something that really helped us, and it worked for both, because, like, we were providing the speaker with, like, unlimited leads in the audience, but then they were just giving us a small commission for doing that.
How did they like, react to that? Because my initial reaction is, like, that sounds great. If I show up somewhere, I do my pitch, or I do my, I provide value, and then I go my pitch, and there's 150 people in a room in front of me, I could absolutely see the value in that. So did they respond the same? Were most of them happy to work like that?
Oh yes, they loved that. And honestly, like, next year was the first year we were going to be able to pay all of our speakers. Before then, we had to like pick and choose, like, okay, you're our main keynote speaker we're going to spend money on, we'll pay for your travel and your room, or we're going to pay you this flat fee because you're our one person that we can afford to do that with. And then next year was going to be like all speakers had these insane benefits. But as long as like you're offering something, like you have to have something that's equal energy exchange for them that they see the value in, but then for us also, especially as like I mean, do you know who Grant Cardone is?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even pay his speakers. Like, you think of the insane celebrities he brings up on stage, none of them get paid. And that's because he is such a huge name with such a huge event. These celebrities don't care. That's bringing 200,000 new faces to him, you know?
When you have 250,000 people in your email list, like I am sure that Grant Cardone does, and you endorse somebody and your name is big enough, and not just that, but then I'm going to go put you in front of my 250,000 person email list, you absolutely get to sit in a different position. So I think that's interesting you said that, because I actually don't know like what the going rate is for a speaker. I don't know if you're like open to talk about money. Like, what does that range from? Like $150 for a breakout session to like a few $1,000, $2,000. It doesn't have to be exact numbers or people name or anything.
Yeah.
Like that, but what is
we can talk about it. So and it's so like you will get such different reactions from one person to the next person. Like, honestly, if you're working with people who speaking is that's their job, like that's what they want their career to be, they will have way higher rates to bring them onto your stage. And Pete Vargas talks a lot about that, and he's one of Grant Cardone's big speakers every single year. He talks about being an entrepreneur, being a speaker, using other people's stage and getting all these leads and money and pay. But he talks all the time about how using other people's stage there can be so many other benefits than cash, because depending on the event size, depending on if that audience is also your ideal audience, there can be so many opportunities for gaining leads, for having conversations, for converting to your next offer, like all of that stuff. But as far as like going rates are, we started out of course, our first event, like nobody was paid. We had small speakers from, right around the area. But our second event, we paid one of our keynote speakers $350. Yeah.
I get it, girl.
So I mean, our ticket cost was $40. So like, you have to think that was a huge cost. Yeah. But I would say like the going rate, breakout session leaders generally don't get paid because they're like a smaller, shorter segment. There might be like some type of lead capture, or you might give them some other exchange, their meals, their hotel rooms, something like that. And then whenever you have keynotes, that could range all the way from, I'm going to sell my $10,000 offer on your stage. They're not getting paid because we know at least one or two people are going to convert, and they're getting paid all of that. We're providing those leads. We're providing them an experience of getting on stage, getting exposure, getting on the leads. A lot of keynote speakers also will ask for all of the emails from the event, like the audience. So that's something that we've talked about before. And then like you're talking sometimes like, for us, like maybe like $1,000 to $2,000 for a keynote, but we have like we like in our minds think like, what would we want if we were going to somebody else's event? So I mean, we're talking like covering your photography and videography reel. We're talking like hotel room, food package, 4-hour yacht excursion in Miami. Like all of those things are so much more valuable to our speakers than, hey, I'm just going to give you a flat $1,000,
Yeah. And I was going to say, I've been in both places where people have asked me to come do breakout sessions. I have not done any on stage, like public speaking, but breakout sessions. And they will usually say like, hey, we'll cover the cost of your flight and I am always down because it just aligns with whatever the entrepreneur's goal is, right? My goal is to get travel, paid for, is way more exciting to me than like a flat rate to go talk about some kind of topic or something.
Exactly.
I apologize.
Yeah. And, I will say, like, for me, as also doing like different speaking opportunities, like I had someone that has an online mastermind, and she's like huge. Like, she has so many followers. She's huge in the blogging space. And last year, I was like a guest speaker in her mastermind, of course, for free. Like, she's a huge name. Why would I not do that? And then this next year, she invited me back and said, hey, our mastermind loved you so much. Will you please do another session? And I said, okay, let's talk compensation. What are you guys going to give me in exchange for my time? And they said, at this time, we're not. And I'm sitting there thinking, you just made $200,000 off of this mastermind, and you wanted me back? You're going to pay me at least in emails or money or something for my time, and they weren't willing to, so I declined the offer. So that's just something you have to think about.
Yeah, I love that you said that in emails is like a currency in the entrepreneurial world, right? Because there is something to be said about ad space. There's something to be said about sharing on the social media posts. There's something to be said about email lists and email marketing. So I think that's really interesting, because I think I would definitely jump on a deal that was like, okay, no compensation, but I get 500 emails of people that could potentially, I know are buyers that could be in parallel, like buying spaces, right? So that's
like I have 40,000 followers on Instagram. I'll do a post and 3 stories about you speaking in our mastermind. That's huge credibility. Like, hell yeah.
Yes. So. I've never thought of the word like entrepreneur currency, but I definitely feel like
we do today.
We have our own. Yeah. And I know you guys are totally into the event world, and I honestly, in my whole career of being an entrepreneur in 15 years, I have never, ever thought of an event. I've never.
Oh my
gosh. It's so far from something that would be in my comfort zone that I would ever enjoy doing. So, but I know the two of you love it. So I've let Nycki go through on her little pieces.
And that's why you need to do it.
Yeah, right. But what I am really curious about, not to completely switch gears because it's not entirely switching, but so I think it's unbelievably, incredibly brave of you to prioritize your mindset and your mental health as an entrepreneur and put that even above the traction that you've gained. And what I would love to know is how do you get to a decision like that? And then after the decision, how do you keep yourself in a positive mindset to be like, okay, I didn't just ruin my business. I didn't just, take a step back. Like, know that you are exactly where you need to be and you're doing exactly what needs to be done. And then thirdly, I know this is a lot of questions, but thirdly, what are you doing for the 2023 one that's going to be different than where you are now, so that you don't experience that same burnout, or you don't feel like you're in the same space as you are to cancel 2022s?
Okay, so how did I get to that decision?
Yep.
How do I keep myself in a positive, I didn't just burn my business down space?
Yep.
And then what are we doing differently for 2023 so we can grow and not repeat that process?
Exactly.
Okay, so getting to that decision, first of all, I love that you brought this up, because this is what you're asking is the main way that I show up on social media. So I know I told you guys, I work with people with their launches and I do all this stuff, but the main way I show up on social media is talking about mental health, entrepreneur burnout, entrepreneur experiences, real life. All of that is how I really like to show people, what I like to show people on social media. And how I came to that decision, I am going to get very real with you guys, and I might cry. So, I I got to the point where I was suicidal, and I I could not go on. Like, I could barely get out of bed for my kids, and yet I still had this huge thing looming over my head of, you have to get up and show up for this event. So you're talking like, couldn't show up for my family, but I had this huge guilt of like, this is your business, this is your livelihood. 500 people are counting on you to show up for this thing. And I was talking to my husband one day, and I was like, how do I do this? We were in the car driving somewhere, and I was like, I am not going to be able to stay alive if I don't make this decision. But I don't know if I can do it. Like, I don't know if I can go out there and let all these people down, not even including letting myself down. Like, I have built this thing for 4 years straight, and now I'm just going to cancel it. Like, what the fuck? And he was like, Sarah, people that are in your audience that would buy a ticket for this next event are buying a ticket because of how you so bravely show up in entrepreneurship with mental health illness every single day. People look up to you for that. That's what you do. That's what you show people. That's what you're a leader in. So I talked to like a couple of people in my small circle, like, you know, I don't want to like go out of my way to talk to people, but like people that are in my mastermind that I'm in, people that have been a part of my event for 3 years in a row. Like, what the hell do I do? Like, I have this huge decision. What do? I talk to my event planners, like, you know, we have COVID again this year. Like, are we going to have to reschedule? What if they don't? What if we lose $60,000 and I have to take out a mortgage to pay for this event? Like, how are we going to do this? And I truly believe it was a mixture of having that heartfelt conversation with my husband and my event planners saying, you know what, I think this is the right decision from a strategy point of view. Like, we have COVID. If you take a step back, you can grow and you can show people how much better this event can be, and be this leader for like, look, take a step back, take care of yourself. It can propel you so much forward. So I think a mixture of like that conversation with my husband and that validation I needed to hear from someone like higher up than me that knows what they're doing, to be like, look, maybe that is the best decision. So then I was able to like do that. And let me just tell you, I did not have one person have anything negative to say about it.
Oh, that's amazing.
And we wouldn't have expected that, right? Like, you expect someone to come out of the woodworks and be like, you bitch, how can you cancel blah, 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 blah. That's what I was expecting anyway. And I had nothing but showers and showers of support. I hope you're okay. I look up to you for this decision. You're so brave. How did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. So it was confirmation that I made the right decision. As far as keeping myself in a positive place of like, holy shit, I didn't just burn my whole business down. I think like the validation of the audience response of them like receiving that news so well propelled me like so much. Like, it just felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders for them to receive it that well.
Right.
Because like, you know, I was out here blazing, being all brave and stuff, but like, what if they would have been this angry mob coming at me? Like, you know, I didn't know what I was going to do. So them receiving it well, and then having support. Like, before this year, I did not have a support team. I wasn't a part of a mastermind group. I didn't have friends I could talk to outside of business. And having that community of people to like lift you up, having friends that care if you kill yourself or not, that check on you, that say like, look, if you need me to get the kids, if you need me to do something, like, let's take a walk and talk about something other than business. Having that was huge. Like, it literally kept me sane. And then, sharing my journey on social media has been a huge part of this. Like, deciding to show people the ugly side of entrepreneurship, of having 4 kids, of running events and not even having money to pay your bills. Like, showing people that it's not only brave, and I see people doing it every day, but like, you give someone else the validation to live and be authentic and be themselves when you do the same. So how could I run this event if I wasn't doing that? So I decided to do that and just share my journey of like, look, I can't even freaking get out of bed today. Like, let's do a mental health check-in with everybody. And that was received so well. And so I allowed myself to step back and tell myself, like, it's going to be okay. I'm not burning my business down. You can take steps backward to make one giant leap forward. And I'm truly, truly seeing that now. I'm finally to a place like 6 months later where I'm lit up again. I'm on fire. I'm about to launch my next offer. And that 6-month break I needed to stay alive, but my business needed it too. And so if you're an entrepreneur out there listening to this, like, please, if you take away anything from this, please know, like, it is more than okay to take a couple of steps back. It's okay to not post on Instagram every single day. You are not burning your business down by doing these things. You're taking care of yourself. And when you do that, your light can shine brighter for your audience, for others. So 2023.
To add to that, like, I think the biggest thing that I take away is, like, you literally cannot pour from an empty cup. And I know that people probably say that till they're blue in the face, but like, I love Melissa's analogy on like your phone battery, right? Like, so hopefully Melissa will touch on that, but it's so powerful that, especially as women, like, we pour a little bit of our cup into our kids. You have to pour it into your house and laundry. I can only imagine how many fucking socks that you fold every week with 4 little kids. And
do you fold socks?
Hell no.
You roll them up and stick them in their dishes.
I don't even do that. I'm like, here's a big bin of socks. Find your own damn pair.
Me too, girl. Me too. Yeah, like, you're pouring your cup into your dishes. You're pouring your cup into groceries. You're trying to, like, because you said your background is in like health and fitness, like, I'm sure you have some kind of like fitness routine, or like, if not, I know I get into seasonality of like, where is my fitness routine, or your self-care or whatever. So it's crazy that before you ever get to your entrepreneurial cup, like, if you're only starting with 25% left, then what do? You've got to pour it out into all of these people and customers. Your little one's got like makeup on their face or marker or something. Cute.
Yeah, mascara.
Oh, marker. Yep, I see it.
Good marker. Yeah.
I'm gonna touch on the phone battery analogy. I love your analogy on that.
Yeah, so I always tell Nycki, because we go back and forth on a daily basis of constant ideas, constant creation, building, and some obviously life, I don't want to say gets in the way, but life happens too. And so, some days we both are like, I feel like I should be at 100% right now. Especially if like she's at 90% and I'm at 30%, or vice versa, like, and I'm like, why am I at 30%? And, I want to be vibing up there with you at 90%. And, we tell each other that, it's like a cell phone battery. It's like, you only have 100%, and there's going to be things that run in the background, apps that run in the background that will drain your battery more than others. And you have to be mindful of those. And then there's just going to be natural things that happen on a daily basis that drain your battery as well. And you can only get to 0. There's no more after that. You have to plug in. You have to take a break. just like you can't use your battery in your cell phone when it's dead, like you have to charge it. And so it's okay to do that. And not only is it okay, it's essential. There's no other way. And so you need to be happy that you get that opportunity to charge your battery.
I love that. Yeah, like I think as entrepreneurs, like you said, we are in constant creation, constant ideas, but the thing we need to realize is it can't all happen. Like it's okay to grieve that it doesn't all get to happen, because I know I'm multi-passionate. I have so many different things and apps running in my like head, but like it can't all happen, and that's okay.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so 2023, or Melissa, you have a thought?
No, that was going to be it. I'm really curious to know what the plan is for 2023.
Yeah. So first of all, a lesson that we learned in this past year is that like you just have to spend the money and invest in your own conference so people invest in you. We had a big boo-boo this year of hiring somebody, and I'm not going to say what it is because it's been a big issue, but we hired somebody to do something for the conference, and they weren't technically a business. They weren't accredited. They just came well recommended by someone that we trusted. And, they had great work on social media that we had been following, and they showed great stuff. So we were like, they'll do great on this, and it's been a huge flop. We still haven't gotten some of the stuff we were supposed to receive from them. And our speakers paid for certain things from them, and we haven't gotten that stuff. So, we had also checked into a different service, a different team that provided this same thing that this person did. And their quote was like $25,000. And I was like, there's no way I'm spending that. No. Like, I need a new car. Like, no, I'm not going to spend $25,000 on this. And ultimately, like, we were talking after the event, me and my husband, and we were like, damn, we should have paid the $25,000.
Wow.
So it's been a huge lesson of like, when hiring people for services for your event, for your business, whatever, like making sure you have a contract, making sure they're accredited, making sure they're insured, and all of that, so you don't have all these after issues after your event's already over and you're still like trying to catch up, having issues with it. So like next year for 2023, like we've already been talking about, like hiring better for our services. Also something we learned for like our next event is like working all of the behind the scenes stuff. I know it's taught in this industry that, you can sell. I don't even know what strategy they call that. You guys might know, is like selling the thing, but before it's even created, whether it's like a program, an event, whatever, like go ahead and like going ahead and marketing it before you've even created it. For an event, like I do not suggest doing that. And we've learned so much, so of like getting your sponsors before you even announce the event, and not announcing the exact city location in case that city doesn't have any locations available. We dealt with that with Florida. Like West Palm Beach didn't have anything, so we were going to have to go like a 50-mile radius out of that. And then it's like, oh shit, well, I've already told people West Palm Beach. So it's like all of these little things add up to something huge. And not just that, but like taking a year off, like you're already experienced, you already know what you're doing, but taking a year off to 100% work behind the scenes without the weight of other people's expectations, without deadlines of having to announce shit, just like purely putting your head down and working on it in private it's just game changing, especially for something this huge. So between all of that, it is going to be so different for 2023 for sure.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of little nuggets in there as far as like pre-launching. Yeah. I think it's interesting because if I'm on the West Coast, and you said it was in West Palm Beach, and I get there, and all of a sudden it's like in a 50-mile radius. It's not like it's like the difference between Orlando and Miami where the airport changes or something. It's just like, I don't actually know why people would be so freaked out over that. Like, I guess I would be more flexible, I suppose, but I'm also in this space. So I guess if you were just a consumer and not an entrepreneur, it would be hard to adapt, but it's interesting. I think there's a lot of little nuances of things that you wouldn't expect that definitely add up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 2023.
Why, like a specific place would matter. I mean, I'm not like a conference or event type person, but I feel like if if let's say it was in Florida and I was like, oh, well, I have other friends in Florida or I have other business contacts in Florida, I wouldn't want to do it in Florida. But if you told me it was in Idaho, I might not want to go to it. So, I don't know anybody there, and it's, I don't know. So, I could see why it would matter kind of planning it before you actually announce it. I feel like that's kind of maybe the reason why I don't do event things, is because I'm right there with you, like with your original statement of like all these people are kind of like pounding on me, and you feel that weight on your shoulders. Like as soon as you make, in my opinion, as soon as you make something public and you get other people's expectations involved in it, now it's like it's your job, if you will, to like keep these people's expectations exactly what you presented them that it was, which actually leads me to a thought that I was having. So when I asked you the question about do you have a team or whatnot, we just did an interview with someone yesterday that we were talking about Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week and how he goes into outsourcing all of the day-to-day activities and, anything that you can pass on to a VA or things along those lines. And just to kind of keep, all of that weight and pressure off your shoulders, after you announce and things like that, but just sort of the day-to-day things, has that been something, because you got down to where it was like just you and your husband, has that been something that you've kind of tossed around, like hiring VAs or just the smaller stuff that doesn't necessarily have to get done just by you?
Yeah, so we did actually hire a VA, and of course it was like like we knew somebody that knew somebody, and it was like a connection, and it didn't work out. They quit because they had a higher paying client. And so yeah, that was our experience with the VA. I think actually a lot of entrepreneurs have that experience with the VA, and then it like kind of scares them away from trying again.
The interview yesterday, he literally said that. He said, I had to hire, I think he said 4 VAs before he found somebody that meshed with him. And he said, or I think Nycki brought it up, she said, I give you credit for not having that one experience with that VA and been like, nope, that didn't work for me or whatever, and trying it again and again and again, because the one he has now, I think he said he worked with for 3.5 years. So yeah, I definitely think that would be maybe something to look into, because I feel like it's growing pains with the finding the right team to kind of release that control too, because we talked about that too. Like entrepreneurs, we have this natural control. It's our baby, it's our thing, and we know what's best for it, and to kind of give over that control sometimes is super scary and not something that comes natural. And so to find somebody that you're like, okay, I actually trust you with running this piece of the puzzle, like I can't, I haven't done it, so I can't imagine how scary that is. But something that takes that off your plate might be something worthwhile.
Yeah, I think actually, like, we had already planned this for the next year. I think our next move of like hiring or outsourcing is having like a sales rep / customer service person.
Love that.
That's commission based. So that's kind of like a starter of like outsourcing, because not only are they commission based, so it puts the weight on their shoulders, but then also like it's like a collaborative relationship. Like they can get out what they want to get out, but then we're also benefiting. as far as like some of the behind the scenes stuff, some of the selling and reaching out and like retouching base with people that have inquired and stuff like that. So that's our next move.
Retargeting. I love it. So if you were going to kind of summarize like the 3 main steps that you internally took to get to being ready to even talk about like 2023, what could you summarize that and like a couple of things of like what people would need to do or like what you're working on for someone that is experienced burnout? Because while people are not hosting conferences or whatever, I feel like having, I would say, multiple clients, I definitely hit burnout really early on in my business. In the first year, I took on, like, my goal was to have 40 women clients when I was running Fempire, right? And to have 40 women ask me every week, like, where's my analytics? Where's my email? What's this? You spelled this wrong. I don't like this color. Can I change my brand name? Like, you're like, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And then you're like, holy moly, I have 40 people's lives not lying on me, because I feel like social media management was not that serious at that point in my career. I feel like now when you run Facebook ads and people put money in and you're doing like retargeting campaigns, it can be more serious. But I definitely hit a wall where I was like, I can barely control myself. And I had a brand new baby at the time in my relationship. And then controlling 40 other people's lives, or like being in charge of that. If you maximize that to 150 people in customer service and all those kinds of things, what did that look like internally for you to keep up that stamina?
Two things come to mind whenever you were talking about that. I think the first thing that I've constantly had to do that's been very hard, because I grew up not having boundaries. Like, I was the overachiever, gotta do everything, gotta be perfect type of person. And I kind of carried that into adulthood and into business. So I think a big thing that has been like integral to my growth as an entrepreneur and business owner is not asking myself, like, what else can I do to grow? But it's asking, like, what do I need to release to grow? And it might be kind of confusing for people, especially like if you're not into spirituality, but it is truly like everything in our lives, even the amazing important stuff like family or kids or, you know, all this stuff that's so important to us. Anything in our lives is a part of us that, I don't want to say weighs us down, but it makes us heavier. You know what I mean? Everything that we take on, our family, our lifestyle choices, the people that we surround ourselves with, the food that we fill our bodies with, like all of it fills us, like fills our body, fills our energy, it weighs us down. So it's like, instead of like, what can I do to grow? I think entrepreneurs are constantly in that mindset. What book can I read? What podcast can I do? What program can I buy? But sometimes it's not that. Like, especially if you're experiencing burnout, overwhelm, like your mind is a fucking messy library up there and you can't ever find anything. Like, you need to be asking yourself, like, what can I release to grow to the height that I want to grow to? Yeah. And that's been something that I've constantly had to do. Even to the point of like cutting people off that I had business relationships with, that they either trigger me for no damn reason other than just triggering me. I'm like, block. Like, I don't have the freaking energy for that. I don't have the time for it. Like, my schedule's packed, my life's packed. I don't have time to waste energy on being triggered by you, even if you didn't do anything wrong. So click the block button. Like, that's an example of like releasing. And just continuously, like, what relationships can I release? What tasks can I release? What things am I mindlessly doing that I need to let go of so I can get to where I need to be? And then the second thing is having non-negotiables. So, like, your to-do list might be 100 tasks long today. But if you can pick, like, the top 2 to 5 things that they're not negotiable. Like, they have to get done today.
I'm having some slight deja vu. I don't know if you can see how happy Melissa looks right now, but she literally had this conversation with me yesterday in the middle of the meltdown. I was like, I've got wait, let me just show you guys how I organize my brain, because I'm not kidding. This is my to-do list, and Melissa almost killed me yesterday. Like, we had this is what I need to do today. And she was like, what the hell is that?
That's not gonna work anymore.
She's like, what are you working on? I'm like, let me read my sticky notes.
She's like, I'm not really sure why I'm feeling weighed down. And I was like,
I can see why.
Yeah. But yeah, and she's like, you need to pick up 2 of those things.
Yeah. I was like,
throw
you
the rest
literally get
away.
this many, and then the rest you put them to the next day, and then you prioritize that day, and you do the next. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Like,
thank you.
I'm very similar. Like, I'm not like a sticky notes, papers all over my desk type of person, but like, I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of just like random thoughts. Like, I just like, oh crap, I gotta pay this bill.
You're in the middle of driving your kid to school. You're in the middle of doing the damn dishes. You're cooking dinner, and you're like, oh my God, I have a really great idea. Someone needs to hand me a sticky note so I can write it down, and I will come back to it later. And someone's like, well, why don't you just do it? I'm like, because I'm in the middle of folding laundry. And if I stopped folding laundry to go send this email that I just remembered I need to respond to, you're like, I would literally do nothing. It's so funny that you said that. I have notebooks too.
Literally.
That are just random thoughts all over the place.
It's literally like, gotta send this email, pay this bill, gotta pay for tutoring, gotta do this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but seriously, like,
for my program then, because my program is literally like a calendar program that organizes like everything, color codes everything. All your notes can go in there. You can get back to it. You can search it. Like, we're gonna do a collective program together. The 3 of us. Got all
awesome. Yeah, that's like, and it's crazy because like that, what you're saying, that's what I do for people in their launch. Like, when they have that overwhelm of like, gotta post on Facebook. Oh yeah, gotta send that email. Gotta create a funnel. Gotta do all this. I like come in with the calendars and the color coding and the maps and the funnels. But like, here I am in my business with my lists, and
I feel like we're all like that, right? Like you can teach somebody how to do something, and then like you could be an organizer. I don't know if anybody's actually like this, but like you could be like an organizer, and you could go to somebody's house and clean their closet and organize their house, and then you come to their house and it's a mess. I feel like that, as far as like websites go, like I build everybody else's website, and my website typically, I haven't updated in 3 years, and they're like, well, you're a web designer. Why did you update your website? I'm like, well, I'm doing everybody else's. So it totally makes sense on like why you kind of neglect or do it differently for your own stuff.
And I think to make it about mindset too, my thought process kind of went to, it's not that we don't know how to do those things, right? Like, I could totally color coordinate and get a calendar, but you and I love to talk about like bringing it forward facing, creating the daily tasks that allow you to actually complete it and have the discipline in order to do that. I think that that's the key. And while I kind of call it seasonality, right? Like, while sometimes it's really great in the middle of like something super frantic, it's not. Which I actually had a thought about the conference for that is, as far as draining a battery on a phone when you're at 100%, the interesting thing to me about a conference is it's almost like campaigning, right? So while an event is not going on, you have Q1 where you're in development.
Oh, yeah.
And you have Q2 where you're in sales. And then you're in Q3 where you're in like practicality of whatever, right? Like vendors and things or whatever it looks like. And so there is not actually an off season, even though it's literally for one weekend. There's literally not an off season. Like, I definitely for Q4 in marketing, everyone and their mom right now is asking me like, what do I do for Black Friday? And I'm like, all of my clients literally already have their Black Friday and Christmas sales and all that stuff already done. So like, if you're not thinking about Q1 and you're in Q4 asking about the end of Q4, like I don't want to say you've missed the boat, but you are way farther behind, and you're always trying to play catch up for the next year with the conferences. So I think that marathon is insane to think about, really.
It is, and that is why I went ahead and canceled, because see, it took me 6 months to recover. I'm good. I'm ready to go. Like, I could do the event in April, but now we're already behind because you have to have, like, you're already you're already planning your tickets, your venue, your costs, all of that before you even have the conference. Like, for example, before we had this 2021 conference, about 3 months before we had the conference, we had to start planning for 2022 so we could go ahead and announce at 2021 conference. And so it's this continuous cycle, and that's why like having this year off is so powerful, because like, look, I'm back up, I'm running, I'm ready to go, but now we're already behind. So now it's time to put your head down and focus on in 2 years.
Divine timing, right? I think that there's no way that you would even possibly know what the universe had planned during 2022, and it wasn't meant to happen. So 2023 is going to be where it's at. And if your trends have shown that it gets better every single year, I definitely just think it's going to continue anyways.
I think something else that I wanted to say that kind of goes along that with everything we were talking about, all the way from events to entrepreneurship, launching, all of that, is I think a lot of people are constantly focusing on like, what am I doing wrong? What went wrong? How can I fix it? What are so-and-so doing better that I can, put into my strategy, and so on and so forth. That's how we do entrepreneurship. But like, I have a very different way of looking at things. I truly believe that what we focus on grows. So in my business, instead of looking at what went wrong, trying to figure out in the 100 million different variables that it takes to run a business, instead of trying to figure out in all of that what went wrong, I focus on what I did right and how I can do more of that. Because then it grows. It grows my opportunities. It grows my positivity. It grows my confidence. And that's ultimately what we want. And so we can sit there and strategy our business to death, but like, that's why people hire people like us to do it for them, so they don't get all up in their head and then their confidence is ruined, right? It's so much like the mindset part, the inside out, the what am I doing right? And then it just grows. It's like a wildfire. Like anything, everything can go, like if one bad thing happens, it can funnel into this huge disaster. But if you give that energy to the positive, it can make this big, huge spiral and big, huge noise upward. So that's been a huge thing too.
Love it.
One of my favorite things, I know we're getting close to time, so I wanted to put this closing thought in. One of the most powerful things I think that you said in this whole thing was that the vibe and the feedback that you got from your audience, and also like your inner circle when you said, hey, I'm thinking about, canceling. What do you think? That validation that you felt. I always say, like, human beings are not meant to be alone. We're never meant to, like, we started in tribes. We're never meant to like carry out big things by ourselves. The pyramids were not built by one person. Like, you need a team, you need people in the same headspace and the same like energy level, and that vibe with you in that way. And so I think that the fact that you have built that in your audience, you've built people that truly care about what you are, who you are, what you're doing, and that give you that validation, I think is just, that's what it's about. It's a network, right? And so I think that is absolutely incredible, and I commend you for finding the right people to carry out business with.
I actually had a really similar thought. Yes. Really, really, really great thought, Melissa. I think it's so powerful, and I don't ever really like to highlight the negative, but I was literally just thinking about some of our past interviews, and like, hopefully you can expand on this for me, Melissa, but she is the third person that has said to us, I was literally homeless and now I am fucking winning. Like, that is in interviews. And it's not like we have dozens of interviews, right? There's like 10 of you. And it's so crazy or empowering or inspiring, or like all of these like really strong feelings to be like, entrepreneurs literally fix a crashing plane on the way down. And I know I said that in my last interview, but it's so crazy how I keep hearing these same kind of patterns, it's so fucking inspiring. It's literally so inspiring. So no matter where you are, no matter what's happening, no matter what obstacles you're facing from literally the darkest of dark, like there is light somewhere. You just have to keep going. It's so crazy.
Yeah. I wanted to say something about the whole like building an audience. I think, especially in the online space, we're all wanting to we really look up to influencers and people in the space that like have these super fans, right? That buy everything they put out there. They're obsessed with you. Like they'll, read all your stories. They'll reply on all your polls. They're basically worshiping you. And I really got up into my ego at one point, and like especially about the conference, like people are coming here for me. This is international, like all of this stuff. And I really had to like step off of that high horse. Like it is so easy to get caught up in that, man. Like so easy. And so like when you commented, like you complimented like the way my audience is, I've really worked so hard for the 8 years that I've been in entrepreneurship to be like to build this audience that aren't super fans. Like I couldn't handle the feeding my ego 24/7, or I would be a snobby bitch. Like I just would. I couldn't do it like some people do. I would become a monster. And so I am so thankful that I don't have people that are like, she's the best. I got to go to all of her events. I got to buy all her programs. I got to do all, like, I don't want people like that, or I would become something I don't want to be. I want people that respect my mental health, that respect their own boundaries, that aren't buying all my shit, that have real lives. Like, the people in your audience are real people. So I just wanted to say thank you for that compliment, because I've worked really hard at curating my audience and my followers to be that way.
Yeah, it's not, to me, it's not about, Nycki and I talk about this all the time, it's not about having all of the people. Like, we don't want to be Instagram. We don't want all of the members. We want a very carefully curated audience of people that feel the same way that we do, and, kind of share in that, like, realness. Like, we don't want to see your beautiful, fake
highlight,
lack of a better term, photo on Instagram. We want to see the real stuff. We want to know the struggles that you've done from point A to point B, and even further beyond. So I love that that's exactly the kind of strategy that you did with your audience as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think it's definitely really powerful to have the ability to write out exactly what you want, like in people, in life, in business. I think we always talk about how we interview successful entrepreneurs, and a lot of people's idea of success is like, she has a 7-figure business that launches, you know what I mean? Or whatever, right? Like whatever the thing is that someone thinks is success. And while that is great and successful, there's just so much more to so much power in being able to write your own life. I work this many hours. I'm home with my kids every day. This gets to happen. I have this much travel time. I have this much income. And it's literally what you want. It has nothing to do with any vanity numbers, no social media followers. There's no 6-figure launch, freaking magic power, like just clean, real, what you want for yourself, not what someone online is trying to tell you that you want. I think if we can create a community of people like that are just happy living their life, and it's not a comparison to anybody else, like that's what we want Insprise to be. We want people just to be like themselves,
Yeah, I love that so much. Like, I look up to you all so much for creating this app and this mission around this so much, because, like, for example, like, here I am in a shed using my streamer husband's technology with my kid coloring and interrupting us in the background. And for example, like all of 2020, we took to travel. Like, we pulled our kids out of school, we homeschooled them, and we traveled all of 2020. We visited all over Florida. It was the perfect time to do it. We had been wanting to do it. We had the money at that time, so why not then? Like, I could have taken that year to build up enough Instagram worthy photos to play it off like I was this rich, successful, I have 7-figure launches, I'm the shit, you should worship me and buy all my programs. I could have built that, like, no problem at all. But the truth of the matter is, we took a year to travel, and now we're living with my husband's parents because that's the way we chose to spend our money, and we actively made that decision. And it's just like, we have 4 kids, and we're buying land and building a tiny home so we can travel and not have, a huge cost of a mortgage. Like, success gets to look like whatever you want it to look like. And the sooner you can just step into it and claim it, the sooner the world will receive your magic and hear you and see your light shining. So that's something for all the listeners to grab a hold of. Like, no matter if you think your dream looks stupid or it's not what everybody else is doing or not what you think successful is, like, it gets to be whatever you say it is.
I think it's crazy because I think that life is more common than people allow it to look like. It's literally what Melissa and I did this weekend. She literally bought a tiny house on a lake, and literally, no joke. It's literally what we did this weekend. It's why I got this bruise. We're moving and all of our stuff in the middle of the night, right? And so people being like, my closet of Louboutins and this and that, and cool, right? Like, I do not hate that if that is what you like, right? Like, I love that for you. But if it's not for you, you're allowed to love other things that aren't that, and it's not highlighted anywhere else. It's not talked about anywhere else. You're not allowed to be excited about not wanting a Louis Vuitton bag all the time, which is exactly what our podcast was about a couple of years ago, right? So this is like the perfect segue to that. It's literally, it's like, I don't want to spend $700 on a Gucci belt. I literally want to buy a $25 Amazon one, and I want you to leave me alone because that's what I want.
I literally have a quote that is quoting you on my podcast, and it's like, why spend $700 on a Louis Vuitton bag whenever I can spend $700 on a VA?
You literally to enhance and have more time freedom and whatever, right? And you're allowed to want whatever you want. You're allowed to spend your money on whatever you want. And I think that comparison is literally a killer. So just look internal. Yeah, I love it. I love that went full circle because I still feel that way.
Me too.
I love it. Yay. Well, Sarah, this was a lot.
People might have to re-listen about 3 times to gather all the information.
I got 19
a lot of sticky notes.
Yeah. Grab your Post-its.
Away. Please know that this is not okay. Melissa will freak out. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm super excited to see your posts on Insporise. I don't know what the next steps are, but I definitely think we should get together and learn about what that curating looks like. Melissa and I have been working around the clock to try to figure out what our next steps are. We're growing really slow, really intentional, the right audience, the right people. We don't want it to be, like we said, Instagram. We want it to be people who want what they want and love what they love and successful in their own ways and these types of things. So I know that you're going to be an amazing addition to the space. We're so excited for that. And thank you so much for jumping on. I know in crazy mommyhood, I think we spent an hour and a half chit-chatting, or I feel like at least an hour.
Yeah.
So this will not be the last that we hear from you. I am sure of it. I cannot wait to learn about We 2023, but don't think about it. Don't think about it too soon. Take the time that you need, right? Good. We're cheering for you right over here, and so excited to see everything that you're working on. It's amazing. Let's see any closing thoughts before we jump off.
Yeah, like I said, I really commend you for everything that you've done, everything that you've brought to the world, what you're going to continue to bring to the world, and the fact that you definitely prioritize yourself. That's a rare thing these days, and keep doing that. It's working.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah, so much.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you. Bye everybody.
Bye.